UConn's women's basketball, they have advanced to the Elite Eight. They beat Oklahoma 82-59 in the Sweet 16, and that was behind a very strong game by Paige Bueckers in that one. So we're going to talk some UConn women's basketball. We're going to do it with the great UConn women's basketball reporter for SNY. Her name is Chelsea Sherrod, and she joins me now. Chelsea, what's going on?
What's up, Dex? Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. You are very busy on the road, doing a great job covering the Huskies, and we got to talk about what we saw in the Sweet 16 because Paige Bueckers delivered a historic 40-point performance in that Sweet 16 victory over Oklahoma. That set a new career high for her. Also broke the school's NCAA tournament single-game scoring record. How has Paige's leadership and play elevated the team's performance throughout this tournament?
I mean, some could say that she's put the team on her back, so to speak. They wouldn't have won that game yesterday if it was not for Paige Bueckers. And it's crazy to think that she scored 40 points and she didn't even score in the second quarter. So that just kind of goes to show her efficiency. But if you talk to any of the players on UConn, and I talk to them pretty frequently, especially during the media availability during the tournament, they will tell you how much Paige wants to win this tournament and that she will do anything in her power to do it, and that they are trying to win this for her, so to speak. They understand that this is her last dance at UConn and in college, and that winning a national championship is something that will play a huge role. Some would say it might not play a big role, but I do think that it almost is like the tiebreaker when you talk about some of the UConn greats. So Paige has pretty much taken this team under her wing and is showing them, especially with that 40-point performance, that we need to do all that we can to win these games or our season is over. And they said that during halftime of that game, the Sweet 16, she came into the locker room and she pretty much just went in on them and was saying, we're not losing this game. And Paige is one of the best teammates ever. A lot of them will tell you that, and they will listen to her. And so I think that her words speak a lot of volume, but her leadership comes in and plays a huge role for the Huskies in the tournament.
No, absolutely does. See that leadership on and off the court by Paige Bueckers. And now we move to the Elite Eight, and they're going to be playing USC. And this was a matchup, Chelsea, that I had circled on my bracket. I was looking forward to it. It was going to be Paige Bueckers versus JuJu Watkins. But as the women's basketball world knows, USC star JuJu Watkins, she's sidelined due to a season-ending ACL injury. So with that being said, the Trojans, they've had to adjust their strategy. How do you anticipate that USC will adapt their game plan against UConn, and which players do you think are going to step up for USC in JuJu's absence?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a huge test for both teams, but definitely for USC. When you think about when they met each other, not even in the Elite Eight last year, but when they met back in December, JuJu was the driving force for the Trojans, and she was the biggest reason that they ended up winning that game. I will say that I believe Kiki Arifin will play a huge role for them. She had 36 points, 9 rebounds in the game that JuJu injured her knee. But also, I think the freshman Kennedy Smith, some call her JuJu's twin. They do kind of look alike. But she's a freshman guard. She had 19 in the Sweet 16 for them to advance this Elite Eight game. So I think that the Trojans will probably go to them a lot. But I think for them, it's kind of just like next man up mentality. I'm sure that any basketball player or coach will tell you that. But yeah, this is going to be a huge test for the Trojans. And when you think about that game back in December, it really pretty much came down to that last possession when Sarah Strong went up to the foul line and she had to make 3 free throws, I believe, to potentially win that for the Huskies. USC gave up, I believe, an 18-point lead in that game, and that was with JuJu. So I think this one, there are really great players on both sides. UConn, and everyone knows this isn't a surprise to anyone. They do kind of struggle or have their challenges inside. So dealing with Kiki Arifin will be a huge test for them as well. But yeah, Kennedy Smith, Kiki, I think that for the Trojans, those will be the two that I think they'll try to run most of their offense by.
Yeah, we saw Kiki Arifin, as you mentioned, big game when JuJu went down. She's been strong throughout this tournament. She's a handful to handle as well. So you got to think about the depth for USC and how that plays out in this matchup. But then we look at the depth and the health of UConn's roster this year. How significant will be the contributions of role players in supporting Paige Bueckers? We know what she can do. She just had a 40-piece the other night. But to ensure a balanced offensive attack against UNC, how important is it that role players step up here for the Huskies?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be huge. And this is not even just talking about the big three that they call them, and Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd, and how they'll be able to help Paige. And neither one of them had a good game in the Sweet 16. So I think that we all can expect that they will improve upon that in the Elite Eight. But I think for me, the role players that will be the X factors or the difference makers for the Huskies are Ashlyn Shade and KK Arnold, two sophomores who last year played in that USC game in the Elite Eight, and they played a lot of minutes. They started a lot of games for UConn last year, but this year their roles have changed. And so now they are in charge of providing the spark off the bench for the Huskies. And when you look back to that Sweet 16 game yesterday, Ashlyn Shade was basically the reason why they were still in the game and only down 4 at the half. And so she's been able to really take on the role that Gina Auriemma has, set for her, something that's completely different from last year. And she told me today that it almost means more to her this year, her role, because she says that she understands that her minutes are important. She needs to be impactful when she's out there because she doesn't get a lot of minutes. But I think that, for Ashlyn, for KK, both offensively and defensively, especially on defense for KK, she's a difference maker. They call her an energy shifter on the defensive end. For the two of them, it's going to be paramount that they play meaningful minutes for the Huskies in order for them to have the success that they're trying to have.
Gonna need those ladies to step up and support the big three for the Huskies. We'll see if we can do that. Okay, last thing for me here, Chelsea, is given the high stakes, we know it's high stakes because this is the Elite Eight, this is a trip to the Final Four on the line. What are the key factors that UConn must focus on to secure a victory over USC and advance to the Final Four? And also, do you think the team's experience in high-pressure games, which a lot of these ladies have been in, can influence their performance in this game here against USC?
Yeah, those are really great questions, Dex. The key factors, I think, for the Huskies are to limit their turnovers, and I mean, this is kind of, a no-brainer for any team, but to make their shots. They weren't hitting shots yesterday, but also to rebound. And I think the biggest test or challenge for them against USC is going to be how they play inside in the paint on both ends of the floor. So for Janet El-Alfi, who is their 6'5", 6'6" center from Egypt, she's in her first year full with the Huskies and playing. She's going to have a huge task going up against the bigs for USC. And I just, I think for the Huskies, experience plays a role in this. I mean, when you think about it, Paige has played in so many of these huge games. And I think that even with her going off for 40 against Oklahoma, it kind of just showed you that she understands the stamina that you need to have in the NCAA tournament, that a game can flip on its head at any time. And so I think for her, for AZ, even though they haven't played a lot together, they've been in these high pressure situations. So they know what it takes to get to a Final Four or to a national championship game. And even when you think about it too, Caitlin Chen, who is a graduate transfer from Princeton, she went to the NCAA tournament every year that she played at Princeton. This is her first year at UConn. I asked her this today, and I said, you're going to the Elite Eight for the first time. How are you feeling about this? Is it kind of a territory that you haven't been in? And she said, at the end of the day, basketball is basketball. And even though I haven't played in an Elite Eight, I do believe that my experience playing the last 4.5 or so years is going to help me. And I can almost bounce off of Paige and AZ and players like that. So I think that we've been seeing how much experience helps in the tournament, especially when you look at the Notre Dame loss the other day too. So I think that if the Huskies have anything in their favor, I do think that experience is one of them.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how experience plays out in this one. It should be a good one. Obviously, no JuJu Watkins in this one for USC, but They will play the Huskies on Monday evening for a right to go to the Final Four in Tampa on the line. Covering the Huskies will be the great Chelsea Sherrod for SNY. Does a great job covering them. Chelsea, enjoy the game. We'll talk soon, and hopefully you get a trip to Tampa.
Yeah, Dex, we'll definitely see it. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend. Thank you.